Unemployment in Nagaland took centre stage at the 7th session of the 14th Nagaland Legislative Assembly today, as Advisor Jakhalu initiated a discussion under Rule 50 on matters of urgent public importance. Highlighting the statistics, Jakhalu said Nagaland continues to record one of the highest unemployment rates in the country at 7.1% against the national average of 3.5%. With youth unemployment between the age group of 15 to 24 soaring to 27.1% in 2023 to 2024. Calling unemployment a symptom and unemployability the illness, she pointed to gaps in the education system, lack of skill training and societal pressure that pushes youth into seeking only government jobs. She pressed for urgent interventions such as upgrading education, expanding vocational training, creating apprenticeship, promoting entrepreneurship and ensuring better infrastructure in the power and road.
Thank you, Speaker Sir, for giving me the time to speak on matter of urgent public importance under Rule 50 on the topic unemployment in Nagaland. Nagaland has one of the youngest population in the country. If we look at census 2011, it is 13-year-old data, but it still will give us a rough idea of the present situation. If we look at the census 2011, out of the population of 19.8 lakh, people below the age of 35 constitute about 14 lakh. And the youth between the age of 15 and 35 constitute about 40%, which is approximately 8 lakh of the population. Over the next 15 to 20 years, this group will be at the center, and this group will be the main drivers of the state, whether it's regards to social, political or economic affairs of the state. The Nagaland Vikshit Nagaland that we are looking at, Vikshit Nagaland 2047, will really depend on how we shape and mold the youth of today. The youth in our state is confronted with various challenges, and one being the unemployment challenge. The educated youth and the labor force are increasing day by day, but the growth of employment is very slow. That is also because of the slow pace of development in the private sector. And the other thing, government service jobs are saturated. Unemployment is a very complex issue, not only for our state, but for the entire country and the world over. When we look at our youth, we have a talented pool of young people who are creative, who are innovative, and with a very high entrepreneurial spirit. But when we look at the statistics, Nagaland has consistently been shown as one of the highest unemployment rate. In the recent periodic labor force survey, for the latest data, it shows Nagaland has the highest unemployment rate of 7.1, much above the national average of 3.5%. And on top of that, the youth between the age of 15 and 24, our statistics show that it's the highest with about 27%. But again, what is also little concerning is when we look at the same data of the same survey in 2019 and 20, we see that the unemployment rate was at 25.7%. And then in 22-23, it went down to 4.3%. And now in 23-24, it has increased by 65% to 27.1%. Now let us try to first understand how is this statistics derived at. Of course, there are many sources, but I am assuming one of the main sources is the employment exchange of our state. A few months back, the government had introduced a program for self-employment for youth through the scooter taxi services. And then the criteria was you have to get an unemployment certificate from the employment exchange. There we had hundreds and hundreds of young people queuing up outside the office to get the unemployment certificate. Now, this artificially inflates employment figures, as many engaged in private or informal sector may still identify themselves as unemployed. So statistics could be misleading. Firstly, what we need to understand is the meaning of unemployment. And the second question we need to understand is, are our youth unemployed or are our youth unemployable? Unemployment is the lack of job. And unemployability is when individuals are actively seeking for jobs but are not being able to get because they lack hard skills, soft skills, or some technical competencies. When we look at the recent Forest Guard advertisement, for 154 posts, I'm told about 23,000 plus young people applied. Of course, this number is very worrying. But when we look at the advertisement, we will see that the criteria was very simple. For the advanced tribe, class 10 pass. For the backward tribe, metric appeared. Very simple criteria. Here many questions arise. How many of these job seekers are earning their livelihood through businesses or through some income generating enterprise? How many of these youths are actually qualified in some skills? At the face of it, I doubt majority of those who fall under this category would not have applied. So the question again is thousands of young people who have applied for this job, were they or are they unemployed or are they unemployable? Looking at the general context, the first thing that we need to fix is the unemployability problem. So in simple terms, unemployment is a symptom, but unemployability is the illness. And so we as a whole, we need to first fix what the illness is, and that is the unemployability problem. The basic foundation of any young people as they prepare for the job market is the education system. And we know that the education system, not only in Nagaland, but entire country, there's a total disconnect between what they learn and once they're ready for the job market. And though young people may come out, pass out with certificates, it becomes very, very difficult to fit into the job market. I don't want to get into details of the education because I have especially 3 of our members who are from the education domain who will be speaking on it, but this is the observation. Today, when you look at the job market and the industries around, everyone is beginning to adopt new technologies and special roles. And our education system is still struggling to keep pace with it. Many young people enter the workforce with theoretical knowledge, and like I mentioned earlier, with a certificate, but really not the required skill that is needed for the job market and the modern employers. Today, we're talking about artificial intelligence, we're talking about blockchain, we're talking about Internet of Things. This is technology. Technology is moving so fast that we just have no other option but to keep pace with it, integrating into every aspect of our lives. Sometimes we Nagas, we have a false pride of saying we are unique. And everything that don't work, we say we are unique. But if we continue to keep harping on our uniqueness, the world will move on and we will be left high and dry. There are many stakeholders who needs to look into this. Many stakeholders. It's not one party that can solve this problem. But I want to pick up 3 stakeholders for today's discussion. Today, 60 members of the House, along with the officers and all the salaried staff of the government, are doing our best for the betterment of our state, so that our future is better. When we ask ourselves, who is the future or what is the future? Our youth are our future. So if we work so hard, but if we do not understand who we are working for and what we are working for, all the thousands of crores of money that is spent on our salary will be shamefully wasted. We have to try our best to make sure that collectively we understand what we are working for. And I want to also mention the teachers, not singling them out, but when we are preparing ourselves for the world of work, like mentioned earlier, education institution is where the foundation is made. And this, apart from all the other salaried people, which is funded by the public fund, including the teachers, need to understand this. Why do we get the salary to do what we are doing? We are doing this for our future. And that future is our youth. Secondly, government cannot solve all the problems. It has to be a collective responsibility. And we as parents, and parents all over the state, need to understand this. We have to stop pressurizing our young people to get a government job. I know many young people who are doing exceptionally well, earning their livelihood, loving what they do. It could be a bakery, it could be a tailoring, it could be helping farmers produce, reach the market. It could be anything. But the societal pressure and the parental pressure is taking a toll on our young people. And so it is important the parents collectively also need to understand this. The mindset shift has to be done. Thirdly, the third stakeholder is the youth themselves. Many young people, like I mentioned, are running their own enterprises. They are doing exceptionally well. But again, we have a majority of young people who are too comfortable in the 4 corners of their rooms and refusing to get out to even gain skills or do some training for themselves. They're just waiting for the government job to fall into their lap, or some subsidies or some freebies to come to their rescue. I've also heard some young people complaining that when we apply for jobs, we don't get the jobs because we are asked to get experience certificate, or unless you're experienced, you don't get a job. But experience does not mean a salaried job. Experience does not mean that you have to be paid for. You can volunteer in the church activity, you can volunteer in the community activities, you can go and help some business enterprises, or you can even just wait a shop. Those are the experiences that you get. Now, so the bottom line is that employability is something that we need to look into. Where are we going wrong? What are the interventions that we need to make? Then there are many interventions, but 5 interventions in a brief, I want to share this with the House. One is upgrading the education system. Like I mentioned, I would like to keep it to the other honorable members to speak on it. Number 2, skill development and expanding vocational training centers. Today, the government is, through various departments, are imparting a lot of skill development programs. And I know many young people again who are working outside, here in Nagaland also, and working outside. In fact, me as personally, I was someone who was very against young people going out about 15 years back. But over the years, and with experience, and with times changing, I strongly believe that our young people should train, go out, find a job, because when you go out, you are meeting different type of people, you're also gaining experience, and we're hoping that one day they'll come back and contribute to the state and also teach the work culture to the younger generation.